Hey guys, it's LOL Rybun or Rybun here. You can hear that my door is shaking and stuff. My cat was making a lot of noise while I was trying to record this, so I just locked him outside. Not outside, but outside of my room. Today we're going to be looking at the Geomancer class, a custom class in Here's a Hammerwatch modded class. The Geomancer class focuses on using Earth to attack their enemies. Let's look at their skills. First and foremost, we've got the primary called Throw Another Rock. This throws a rock and pierces through an enemy, deals, it says physical damage. However, I believe it's magic damage from what I've seen. You always hit the mage enemy for less than the armored enemy, and that's good enough for me. This does magic damage, I believe. Needless to say, this pierces through an enemy, dealing damage and creating extra shards that deal more damage on hit. This scales all the way up to piercing 3 enemies, producing 6 shards each. And the thing to note here is for each enemy pierced, you actually create shards on every single one that is hit. That is very important because it does lots of damage. The other thing that I've noticed through testing, although I will not claim for it to be 100% true, is it appears that the damage from this ability scales off of skill power. The other thing to note is I tried taking incendiary demise and enchanted slammer with this build, and in both cases, well, in one case with the incendiary demise, I actually wasn't able to deal damage. However, I took frenetic eruption as well with wicked sickness, and when I procced combo, I could deal damage, and it was massive damage, like something like 128,000 at level 1. So I'm not exactly sure how this skill works, because when I took enchanted slammer, I did less damage. When I took incendiary demise, I did no damage. However, when I was in combo with wicked sickness, I did immense damage. I'm not sure what's up with that. There's no real way to properly assert that other than looking at the source files, I guess. However, I'm not going to attempt to do that here. But I believe this scales with skill power first and foremost, not attack power. If it does not scale with skill power, I'm almost certain that the shards do. That being said, I'm not sure how the interaction with on hits works at this time because I tried to test it and it was kind of hard to get a proper result. Dealing no damage, dealing less damage, and dealing immense damage under a particular case is kind of weird. That being said, this has a lot of potential with how it is written to do a ton of damage, so it's a very good primary. Also stacks very well with your second passive, which we'll talk about now just for the sake of getting out of the way. Stunning blows functions a ton like the paladin passive. The only difference is this passive scales or works with a ranged attack, so you're wondering, how does that work? Is it just the stuff that the primary hits? Well, yes, but technically the shards are part of the primary. So all of these shards and pierces you're doing, creating more shards, are stunning enemies. Now that's good, but it's even better when you realize that the shards, when they come out, always hit the enemy that they're coming out of. This essentially means you have, at the final level of this skill, 6 shards. So 1 attack plus another 6 shards. That's 7 chances with a 25% chance to stun the enemy that you are attacking. This is a really high percent chance to stun an enemy and can be very useful. Next we'll talk about all of the active skills. You've got Earth Splitter, which functions just like you would think it does. It's pretty much the same exact thing that the Act 1 boss uses, where in a straight line he fires out a line of spikes to deal damage. That's how this works. Boulder is literally the same exact thing as a boulder from Pyramids of Prophecy. It looks just like that. It rolls in a straight line just like that. I don't know, and excuse me if I'm wrong about this, I don't play Pyramids of Prophecy a lot. I don't know if it stuns like I believe it does in Pyramids of Prophecy. However, Either way, still does a ton of damage in this path. It also costs a fair amount of mana, which means this will scale really well with Wilmer, which is nice. And then you've got your final active, Quake, which is a quick nova that bursts around you, dealing damage and destroying most projectiles around you. This is really a survival skill more than anything else. Does a decent amount of damage, but if you're going to do a ton of damage, you're going to want to be using Boulder because of the high mana cost and high base damage. The other thing that this has is people get really close to you, and I'm not sure if that's what you want exactly. Stone Armor is a very quirky skill, I feel like. It lets you gain a stack of a path. It's similar to the sorcerer when he/she gains a stack of their passive, making them take reduced damage after casting a skill. This one's condition, however, is not my favorite. You get a stack whenever you stand still. This scales all the way up to 5 stacks, 16% reduced damage, but 16% reduced taken damage and 8% less damage done per stack, which is, what is that? 80% less damage taken, however, you're dealing 40% less damage. Starts out at 1 stack for 10 and 5% respectively. This is good, but not my favorite for a lot of reasons. First of all, getting the stacks requires you to stand still. I think the situation in which this would be good is in fights like against the Act 4 boss, where he takes a little bit of time to wind up his attack to get out to you. So you could stand still, dealing normal damage and slowly losing some of that damage while he's coming towards you. And then the residual damage, once it finally hits you, is going to be less. And then once it hits you enough, you're going to be doing normal damage again. So it just reduces your damage initially to protect you. And then you're going to do normal damage eventually. In that case, I can see this being useful. But for clearing floors, this is going to cause a lot of issues where you either... I don't think you'll get to use it much because you usually don't stand still. And if you do stand still, you're going to lose a substantial amount of damage, which I don't think is worth it. That being said, Stone Armor is... it's okay, I would say. Not my favorite. And your final passive is Quicksand, which just leaves a trail of quicksand behind you, slowing enemies. And you trigger this while moving. So you'll see if I stand still, it won't appear. Whereas if I'm moving for a while, it'll start appearing. Comes up pretty frequently, so it's probably pretty nice to have. That being said, here's all the active skills in action. Here's the boulder. It goes pretty far, so if I fire it from here... I think it... Did it break because I walked into it? No, that's just where it breaks. Okay. And then you've got your right click, which is a charge skill. So, no charge versus full charge. So, no charge is... Let's see. Stops here. Full charge goes that much further. It's a little bit faster, does some more damage. Here's no charge. 23 damage. Full charge. 45 damage. So it's about double. That being said, those are the... sorry. The final active skill looks like this. It's instant cast, and it stuns. I didn't know it stunned. It destroys projectiles around you. Fairly low cooldown. You can permanently stun people with this, actually. So if you had the mana to constantly cast this, this may be very viable for a build. Especially since it destroys projectiles. With this cast time, you probably wouldn't get hit, so you could just kill everyone around you while not getting hit by anything. This could be very useful. That being said, those are the skills of the Geomancer. Let's look into what I would take for statues, chapel, fountain, and etc. First, for the chapel, you're going to take Path of the Defender. As always, I love Path of the Defender. Self-explanatory, as I always say. Just less damage, that's great. Here is... A lot of the stuff in this build says it does physical damage. However, with the primary attack at least, we could check some of the skills. I think you do magic damage. That being said, I would probably take Blessing of Intellect here. Even if you're doing a primary build with incendiary demise, relying on proccing combo to do insane damage, I would take Blessing of Intellect because you're doing magic damage there. If you're doing a skill build, I think you're already dealing magic damage, so I'd take this here. If you're trying to pull off something with this ultimate ability, maybe you take Blessing of Mind. Mana regen could help you out there. However, I would say the staple would be Blessing of Intellect. After that, I would take Symbol of Essence probably, if you're running a primary build. However, if you're not running a primary build, you're going to take Symbol of Focus for the extra crit damage of your skills. If you have a really high Witch Hunter, you may not need to take this, and you could take something like Symbol of Essence. I think that's really the only other viable option. So just in general, I would take this if you're going a skill build. And your attacks link up really nicely with Divine Hammer. They're not fast enough for Divine Strike. They're ranged, so you don't want to take Divine Blast, and you almost never take Bomb. So I would take Hammer here. Next, we'll look at the drinks for this build. I'm going to set it up for a primary build. Specifically because I want to see you guys want you guys to see the crazy numbers that come out with Incendiary Demise. However, if you're going a skill build, you would probably take where's Evil Infusion? Evil Infusion, Elemental Bruiser, Starlight Singer. You could take Frenetic and Wicked. That's what I would do. However, it's up to you. So here I'm going to take Wicked, Frenetic, Incendiary, Overflowing Physique, and something for defense, probably. Actually, we have pretty high base HP. We're going to take Crazy Eye here. So that's the drinks I would take in either case. You could take something defensive instead of Crazy Eye if you're running primary on a higher NG. However, this is a starting character, so I'm not too worried about that. Or statues, we're going to take, I want to say Cedric. Specifically because I think it scales off of skill power. So I would take Cedric here. I'd take Wilmer. I think. Actually, I'm playing primary. I'm not going to be using these skills too much. And this doesn't have a mana cost. So I'm going to take Kira here. And for my third statue, probably Ozrest. For the poison and extra damage to poison enemies. For items, we're going to be looking for Lucky Hat and /or Heartseeker, since we're going primary build. If you're going skill build, it'd be Lucky Hat or Staff of Volatile Casting. I'm not too particular about the other items because this is just I'm probably going to run NG3, maybe NG0. I don't know. We'll see. But here we go. You definitely do not need this many keys. I'm just taking this many because redundancy, really. I don't want to find a chest I can't open. For this video, I'm going to be mainly skipping to each boss, and then I'll show you probably a little bit of combat in the last act that I lived to. Granted, I do die in an act. I'm going to be taking my normal preset here for my run. And we'll get right into it. I'll catch up to you whenever I'm dying or I'm in a boss fight. Just wanted to say a few things really quickly. First and foremost, this is NG5. I forgot to change it. Second thing, I kind of forgot to reset my skills. That being said, I'm missing 2 of my passives. I don't have any points in my primary other than the initial one that you get for free. And I'm running NG5, so we'll see how this goes. The other thing I'd like to note is I'm doing damage with Incendiary Demise now. So that's pretty good. You're not seeing any of the crazy numbers I was seeing. However, 3,000 damage considering I just have Incendiary Demise. And this is what I'm looking like. It's still a little far-fetched. If I take back what I said earlier, the primary very clearly scales with on-hit effects, and on top of that, so does the split damage. I'll show you the implications of what this means really quick. Just a little PS, by the way. I did fail my run. I didn't have the primary to deal really what I wanted to do. Yeah. We can deal a lot of damage here. Also, as you can see, I'm doing a lot less damage to the magic one. Therefore, I am correct. It is magic damage. We're going to do one more run here. I'm just going to do the same setup as before. I'll get back to you guys in a second. So I ended up taking Groovy Ghost this time, but here's my items. And here's what the damage looks like with the full loadout equipped. We're hitting for lots of numbers, which is good. We'll see how this goes this time. Still running NG5, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and not even pick up items here. I'm just going to, well, if I see the door, I'm just going to go for it. I'm doing so much damage, like, the way I can just clear rooms in half a second is enough to convince me that this should be fairly easy enough. Actually, scratch that. I'm gonna get items. I may have skipped them on the first floor. However, I don't think it'd be a fair playthrough of this character if I didn't. Also, on that note, it is a little bit harder than I thought it was. The first floor was just such a breeze. I got one shot. Interesting. That wasn't working out the best for me, so I went ahead and changed it down to NG3. I want to at least fight the first boss, and that was not going to happen with that current setup. I also keep forgetting to buy imps for these characters, which I'm deeply regretting because a lot of times I do not have all the money I need to buy stuff from the shop. Let's just show you how fast this primary build clears a room. Pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. So we actually made it to the boss this time, which is impressive. I guess third time really is the charm. Nice. Not too hard of a boss fight. The other thing I should note is you get Orgain from this class. It's small, it's not super big, but it's Orgain. And Orgain is Orgain, and everyone loves Orgain. So, pretty nice class. Alright, we're on the Act 2 boss. Admittedly, I did skip a lot of chests there. Just not to look for the button. That being said, we are still very easily able to take out this boss. Now here's where the fun begins. Let's see how fast we can wipe out floors here. Yeah, as long as your aim's decent, you can just clear through people. I think we'll just keep rushing. See how far we can get rushing on NG3. We'll still take free chests like this one. But our general goal is just to go as fast as possible. I missed it. Hold up. Alright. By the way, that was 17% evade, and I just walked through it, dodging a lot. I mean, it does low damage anyways, but that's pretty lucky. See, the nice thing about this class is you have a very high chance to proc combo because you're constantly doing all these extra damage procs, which means it's really good with frenetic. Judgment. Wow. I guess we could see how this interaction goes. It seems like it's proccing a lot, which means you probably do on hits like Judgment on the split projectiles. While they may scale with skill power, I think they still do technically count as a primary attack. Which means this build's best item may actually be Judgment Lucky Hat. If you're doing a bossing run. However, for non-bosses, that's not going to be as good as Heartseeker. Should be exit button here. Oh, I got killed. Okay, that's fine. Summarization. I feel like I should do these with these mods. We'll talk about that. What I like about the class, what feels good about it, what doesn't feel good about it. Like I said before, the first passive here, the one that you have to stand still for, probably my least favorite thing ever. All in all though, class feels pretty good. Has a lot of base HP, gives you Orgain per class title, 10% from clearing 3 bosses. That's not even the full NG0, so I'm guessing that means for every single NG you clear, that's 20%, which essentially means you're going to double your per NG bonus, which is awesome. That means you can run NG0 with the same Orgain as NG whatever NG your Geomancer is at. I think that's one of my favorite things about this class. I really like the primary. Sometimes it feels a little lackluster. The problem with this is it does deal a lot of damage and pierces and stuff, but you do have to kind of aim it. Yes, I know, that's crazy. You have to aim something. But you know, sometimes you're not going to clear like the leftover mobs as fast because you're not just piercing through and spawning all these projectiles. The stun feels great. I didn't use any skills there, so I can't really rate them. But all in all, it feels like a pretty tanky primary attack-based class. Downside is you don't have any defensive abilities in terms of passives, other than the one they have to stand still for. Or the slowdown, which is okay, but not the best. Specifically because it's just a slowdown, whereas other classes like the Paladin have a block, the Thief has a dodge, the Ranger has a dodge, etc., etc. All in all, pretty good class. And that's where I'll call it. So thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.